In today's video, we'll be building a £150 gaming PC. And yes, you heard that right. A gaming PC for only £150. Now, this is going to be a difficult one, but we have had some pretty decent deals, and we have just about been able to squeeze in that £150 budget. And I think we've got not actually too bad components. So basically what I'm going to do is talk over the components in the first sort of intro part, then we'll get into that build montage of me putting the PC together, and then we'll have those very important gaming benchmarks for you guys so you can actually see what this PC could actually potentially do in games. So yes, as I said, for £150 we are going to have to take a few shortcuts here and there, and it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to get there, and we're going to keep to that budget, because if you're interested in budget gaming and you really are on tight budgets, as we know, a lot of people are in this cost of living crisis that we're in, £150 is not much money, and you can usually come up with that fairly comfortably for most people. So obviously once you're starting to get into that sort of 400, £500 PC sort of area, a lot of people are going to find that hard to stretch to. So £150 should be okay. I mean, I will try and sell this on for around the 250 mark, but obviously I will be open to a negotiation on that. But that's when I do sell it on Facebook Marketplace eventually. But anyway, let's just talk about the actual components that we've got, because we actually do have some alright stuff here. First of all, it's this motherboard bundle, which actually was a pretty decent bundle, actually, and pretty good value. So I think I paid £40 for this. Now I'll put all the exact prices on the screen as I go along, because I can't remember exactly everything that I paid for. I kind of roughly know it's about £150 that I paid, but anyway. So £40 I think for this. We have a H81 motherboard just from MSI. Nothing crazy there. Pretty standard, just a micro ATX one, very tiny board this is. But we do have an i7 in here, so we've done all right, guys. And it's a fourth gen i7, the 4770. Pretty decent, 4 cores, 8 threads. I know people are going to say this is probably e-waste by now, but I actually don't think it is. And if you are building a very, very budget PC, I do think you can just about get away with 4th gen i7 at the moment. If you really, you do have to be on a budget, but yes, you can just about get away with it. And it is going to perform perfectly fine for what we need, so I'm happy enough with it. Now, in this bundle, it did actually come with the stock cooler, so we are just going to keep with the stock cooler, because I don't want to add any more value, any more money to the actual price. Obviously, I don't want to up the price by putting a fancy CPU cooler in for £15. Doesn't make sense here, so we are just going to stick with the stock cooler. And I have fully tested it with the i7. Absolute 100% load gets up to about 80 degrees centigrade, which is perfectly fine. Hardly any time it's going to get up to 100% usage anyway, the CPU, because mostly when you're playing games it doesn't get that high, so should be perfectly fine there. I haven't got a problem. The only problem I do have, and it's a little bit of a skimp out, but again, to get to £150 we've had to skimp a little bit, is we've only got 8 GB of DDR3 RAM, which is a Corsair Vengeance kit. Now the actual kit looks fine and is black, and it actually looks quite alright. Hopefully you can see that on the camera, guys. But yeah, only having 2x4 GB for the 8 GB is a bit limiting. Obviously, a gaming PC kind of needs at least 12, probably even 16, really, to be perfect, really, for a gaming PC. But this will do, guys, and it's just about getting the job done here. And we actually do have an IO shield with this as well, so that's a bit of a bonus as well. Now the SSD, this is actually just a box, because I buy quite a lot. I buy quite a few of these SSDs. It's basically by Coaxia or something. I don't know, whatever you call it. But this is actually only £20 on Amazon at the moment for a 480 GB SSD. So not bad value there. And my one is just coming down in the post, so it's going to be it might even be a few weeks. There is a bit of a lead time on that one as well, so that's the only problem. But it is very, very cheap, so it's worth actually putting your order in and just waiting a couple of weeks. That's just what I'll do. But for now, obviously, we'll just use our games drive SSD, so we can test all those games for you guys, and at least this will be a placeholder for when that SSD does come down, so that's fine. So at the moment, we're only at £60, which is pretty decent. The GPU is actually a GTX 970, which is a 4 GB card, and this is the Asus Strix version. So even got a fancy backplate. We've got a backplate for 150 quid PC. I mean, come on, guys, that's not bad. And yeah, I think the GPU is pretty decent there. This was in a PC that only cost me £50. I've kind of, it's kind of a bit more of an office PC, but for some reason they actually had a pretty decent graphics card in there. So I've kind of just said that the PC is probably worth like £25, and I'm going to say that the graphics card's worth £25. So you do have to pay a little bit more than that on eBay, though. I think the 970 is kind of going for about £40 or so, £45 maybe on eBay at the moment. So you will have to pay a little bit more than that, but yeah, I'm gonna call it £25. It's probably a little bit more, but anyway, whatever. We're cheating a little bit here, I admit, but you've got to cheat a little bit at times. And talking about cheating, even on the power supply, technically we're probably cheating, which is our Corsair VS 450. Now, obviously, you probably a lot of you guys who really know your PCs are going to say, "Oh, well, you're running a 450-watt power supply on a card that needs 500 watts, so that's a bit dicey, Michael." But Nvidia kind of say that the GTX 970 needs a 500-watt PSU, but in reality it doesn't really, guys. This card will use no more than about 150 watts at very most, maybe at very, very most 170, 180. That's really pushing it. And even our CPU only takes about 90 watts at very, very most, so we're comfortably under the 300 watts here. In fact, we're probably even under the 250 watts, I reckon. So 450-watt power supply. I've tested it, and I'm perfectly happy that it's stable and fine. So I'm happy to go with our Corsair VS 450. But just be aware that Nvidia do say a 500-watt power supply. So if you are using a bit of a cheaper power supply, probably you do need to get to 500 watt, but you can get away with it. And I only paid £25 for this unit as well for the PSU. So pretty damn decent there, actually. Yeah, so what we've got, we've got 40, 20, 60, 25 is 85, another 25 is 110. So yeah, and then basically we got a bit of a deal on this Ions case. I think it's the G7 or something. It's one of those really cheap flip cases anyway. We got this for £40. It's used, but pretty decent actually. Two fans at the front, two RGB fans at the front with the one at the back. It connects in with one SATA cable, so one power cable for your SATA. So yeah, for £40, I think we've actually done pretty well here. It's got the mesh front, which is pretty nice. It has the tempered glass here, but I've obviously taken it off. I've taken off the back as well, just because it's going to be easier for when I do the build. As you can see, we've actually had the cutouts here for the graphics cards already cut out for us, so that's also handy for us. And yeah, it's just gonna be pretty decent, this Ions case. It's nothing special, but it is going to look fairly good, and it's going to kind of bring up that value in our build. So I think we've done all right. Yeah, so I think really we've kind of talked a bit too much, haven't we? So let's roll that montage. So here it is, guys, and what do you think? I think it's come out not too bad, eh, guys? £150, can't complain with this one. Nice white build, well, sort of white and then obviously black. I think it actually fits quite well, personally. What do you guys think? I think the graphics card takes up a fair amount of room in the case, so that's obviously nice. And overall, yeah, I think we've done all right. We've got a flip case here, you know, nice little decent flip case, which obviously makes the PC look a bit more expensive than what it is, obviously. So it kind of gives that value over a little bit better. That's kind of what I was going for with this PC, really. I mean, in terms of pure performance, we could have done better with our £150, but I have kind of concentrated a little bit more towards the looks, if I'm being honest, with this one, because I do think looks sell, don't they? So we do have to kind of think about them. But anyway, I think what I did say before, but the recording didn't go very well. We did have a bit of an issue with the power supply. Made some kind of rattling at the bottom. I don't know why, because when I took the power supply out and tested it on its own, it didn't make any rattling noise. But for some reason, it was making a rattling noise when I put it in this case. I don't think it was fitting on the feet at the bottom very well in the case, because it's very, very short power supply, and where the feet were, it just weren't lining up because it was so short. It didn't actually get to the actual end of the two sort of like little legs that it has on the little perch thing that it sits on. But anyway, it's just a bit of a funny one, why it's making some kind of weird vibration noise or something, like kind of clackering or something with the fan. But I don't think it is the power supply, personally. I mean, I don't think it's on its way out, but I have actually ordered down a Corsair CV550, so that'll be absolutely fine for this build. I've got my test power supply in there, but that's an MSI 750 watt, a bit of a monster of a PSU, so I'm obviously not going to put that in a £70 or sort of £70-80 power supply in a £150 build, am I? So yeah, we're just having that power supply in there just to actually get this running and what have you, and then obviously we'll take it out when we sell the PC, and obviously we'll take out our own SSD and put in a brand new SSD and put Windows on it and what have you, and hopefully get about 250. But anyway, let's move on to the benchmarks now, because I'm going to waffle on again. Now, I do apologise, the benchmarks are a bit short because I didn't really get a lot of time, because I kind of, like I said, I kind of had that issue with the power supply, and other things have kind of popped up today, but been a bit of a weird day today. But anyway, we have got some benchmarks for you, and it gives you a bit of an idea, doesn't it, guys, of just what this PC can do. So like I said, i7 4th gen 4770, only 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. Yes, I know it's too low, but you know, we're getting by, and you know, it will do for now. I probably will actually upgrade this to 16 gigabytes or at least 12 gigabytes when I actually do sell the PC on. I'm just waiting for an 8 gigabyte stick to come down of DDR3 from eBay. So yeah, waiting for that. And then just the GTX 970 here. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider 1080p low, an average of 73, a minimum of 54, and a maximum of 118. So pretty decent start, over 60 FPS. Average at 1080p low. That's all we're really looking for here, is 1080p low gaming here. It's, you know, it's £150 PC, you can't complain here. Cyberpunk 2077, really bad stuttering here. Now we had an average of 1080p low here, average of 24, a minimum of 7, and a maximum of 81. But I do think the 8 gigabytes of RAM was really limiting us here. And if we had at least 12, I think we would actually been fine. But some kind of weird stuttering going on here, and I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, I do think it was just the 8 gigabytes of RAM. I really can't say that 8 very well. I don't know why. Weird. But yeah, we just needed more RAM basically. But anyway, it is what it is. Our final game is Black Myth Wukong, just a benchmark tool here, guys. 1080p low, an average of 51, a minimum of only 4, and a maximum of 62. So it was actually pushing up there. I mean, that's a fairly modern game, and we're pushing nearly 60 FPS average, so not too bad. Obviously, there's a lot of drops, but again, our our low RAM and our quite old CPU are really struggling here. Our graphics card actually has more legs here, and actually, I think with a better system, with a better CPU and RAM, we could actually get more out of the GTX 970. There's actually more legs in it, I think. So it's a bit of a shame that it's a little bit handicapped in this system. But at the same time, if I put a system together for say 250 with a GTX 970 in, that's not going to sell, is it? So I kind of got to be a little bit, wary of how much cost I'm putting into the system and what have you. I mean, it'd be lovely to put a Ryzen 5 3600 in here with 16 gigabytes of RAM, but then you're pushing up the cost quite a lot there. So you're talking at least 200, if not a little bit more. And at that point, with only a GTX 970, it doesn't make sense. So it's a bit of a hard one, really. I mean, technically, yeah, you should just upgrade the GPU. I mean, it's just too low, but I do think it's a good start for £150. If you are thinking about building your own PC, this is a nice little start here, and it's certainly possible, even using eBay and maybe a little bit of Facebook Marketplace here and there, to get yourself a little gaming PC up and running. And you can always upgrade over time. Like, the great thing with this, it's got 8 gigabytes of RAM, so you can just upgrade that to 16 gigabytes once you've got a little bit of money. Or, well, obviously the CPU and motherboard are a bit limited because you can't really go up any higher than the i7 4th gen on that motherboard, so you'd have to change the entire platform. But again, with the graphics card, you could easily take out the GTX 970 and easily upgrade that, up to a 1080 maybe, possibly even going into the RTX realm of maybe your 2060s or your 2070s or even your 3050s, 3060s possibly. Now, obviously, you would be very CPU limited there if you're going up that high, but there's possibilities here, and you have got a nice case. I think that's the best thing about this PC. The case is very nice, and I really did enjoy using this case, actually. The build was very, very easy in that sense. For some reason, we just got some weird issues, but with that power supply. But anyway, we'll put that aside. We'll just get another one. We'll swap it out, and we'll see if the Corsair VS 450 will actually work in another system, which I think it will. I don't think the power supply is broken, but anyway, we'll see what we're going to do about that. But yeah, just a little video for you guys, just to kind of give you an idea of what you can really build. Even in 2025, you can get yourself a very, very cheap PC, a little starter PC, and maybe even flip it and maybe make yourself a little bit of money. So I hope you liked that video, guys. Please like for the algorithm, please subscribe to see my future videos, and please comment on what you think of my little build. And as always, guys, you know what's coming. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.